Hi, I'm Huey Poplock, and we're talking about Zoom, but Zoom from the hosting point of view and the settings for your Zoom meeting. This is part 3. We're going to be talking about setting up a meeting and some of the things with it. And I'm also going to show you some of the screen.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome back to Church of the Redeemer. We can't wait to
Something's running in the background.
Please turn it off.
I'm going to mute everyone.
I got it.
I muted everyone, including me. So let's get started. Let me share my screen. And make sure I share the sound just in case, but I don't think I have it. I'll minimize this. And I want to show you a few things that, let's see, there's two ways to get to a Zoom meeting, and I do it through the browser. And I'll do that right here. Come on down. And I just type in zoom.us. That gets us to what's called the portal. There is an app, and I'm going to talk about that in just a few minutes. Move this over a little bit. And I'm going to make it bigger here to hide some of the things behind it. And to get to it knows I pre-set it so it always remembers me. So all I have to do is go to my account. Otherwise, it would say sign in, and then you go to your account. Whoops, and I just clicked on that. Hopefully it didn't take. Okay. So today what we're going to talk about, yesterday and the day before we talked about settings, which was this item here. Today we're going to be talking about meetings. And that's, you have upcoming meetings, previous meetings, personal meeting room, and meeting templates. Here's today's meeting, and then there are some other meetings that I have. Here's my previous meetings, and you'll see a whole bunch there because we're going to use it in something. There's a personal meeting room. I'm not going to talk about that today, and the reason being is it does show my meeting, personal meeting room, and the password for it. And I really don't want to show that. In fact, it may show it even on the upcoming meetings page when I. So I'm going to try to avoid it as much as I can. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about meeting templates. We mentioned it yesterday. So let's go back up to upcoming meetings. And it says right here, schedule a new meeting. And that's just what we're going to do today, is see the settings for scheduling a new meeting. I always give it a few seconds because it goes down and it fills in some things in the bottom. And it also calls the topic, this saying there's a Chrome plugin for Zoom, and I'm going to turn that off because I don't need it. And where it says the topic, you can put anything you want there. You really don't want to leave my meeting because you want to give it some kind of a meaning. So what we'll do is we'll call it test meeting for class. You can put any kind of a description you want in here. And then the next part of it is, well, I'm going to do something else here. Turn those videos off. Whoops. No, I won't keep mine. The next thing is, when is the meeting going to be? Now, this kind of lies to you because it doesn't matter what you put in here. If you start the meeting, it works. And so if I put in, like this is today's date at 1 o'clock, if I put it at 6 o'clock and I start the meeting at 1, it doesn't matter. And the same thing with the duration. It really doesn't make a whole bunch because you can go back later and probably still, as the host, still continue the meeting or produce the meeting. But it gives the invite at least the right time. So you can go in and you can pick the date from whatever you want. So we can set it up for tomorrow, and we can set it up for 2:30 in the afternoon, and we can tell it, okay, we want it 7 hours. No, we'll leave it at an hour. And then the time zone. And as I understand it, you can, whatever time you put in there, when people see the time, they may see it in their local time zone. I'm not sure, but it does indicate what time zone you
You're holding it
put
from.
down in. I'm sorry?
Yeah, that's the time zone you're holding it from.
Yes.
Right.
And then if you want it to be a recurring meeting, let's say you're going to do that meeting every third Sunday or whatever, if you click that, it then gives you more information. How often is it going to recur? Like for this meeting, because I used it for the same link for 3 meetings, I said it's going to occur daily, repeat every 1 day, and then I said the end date, and I picked 3 days later, and so it set it up for all 3 days. But right now, we're not going to do that. We're just going to have it a single meeting. Is registration required? Well, that means they would have to sign into a Zoom account, and they have to be registered in this account, and we don't do that, so I don't check that. Then the meeting ID generate automatically. In other words, that ID for the number, or do I want to use my personal ID or a personal ID number? And I'm going to say no. And so it does create a password. You can go in and you can change that. And what I do is I just hit the keys how many ever times I want. Maybe I'll back it out. In other words, you can put whatever you want in there. You can even put words in there. And but I like to just leave it as numbers to make it easier for those people coming in by phone. Now, what about the video? When I come in, I have it turned off. And if participants come in, I have it turned off. I believe if I had the participants turned on, they still have to start it themselves. I'm not sure whether it's on or not for security reasons. As far as audio goes, we talked about this yesterday. I like to have it set for both, but if you don't want to have the telephone ability, you can just put it on computer audio. And then you can dial from the US, or you can add other countries if you wish as well. Meeting options, I leave this blank, enable join before host. And as I mentioned yesterday, that's for security reasons. No one can get in there and put something on or do anything in the meeting room until you are there. Mute participants upon entry. I like to have that on, and then the participants unmute themselves, because sometimes they're talking to somebody when they come in and so on, and it's a lot less disruptive. I enabled the waiting room. That is now by default, but you can turn that off if you don't want a waiting room. The other 3 items here are unchecked. Only authenticated users can join. Again, we don't use the registration within Zoom, so I would leave that unchecked. Record the meeting automatically. As I said yesterday, I don't do this because I don't want a lot of things that I have to edit out at the end. I just start the recording when I'm ready to start, and I end the recording when I'm ready to end it. You can speak before and after, and you don't have to worry about editing those things out. Enable additional data center regions for this meeting. We talked about this yesterday. I have it set up for the US and Canada, but if you want to say, well, use a different country, if you clicked it, you can then choose any of these other countries and utilize a data region from another country as well.
Question?
Sure. Go ahead.
Uh-oh,
She's muted.
Somebody had a question?
she's talking.
All right, if you have a STUG meeting and you want to only let people who belong to STUG in, which is the whole point of having membership, would you then not enable, let's see, what is the one?
The authenticated
Only
users?
authenticate users can join.
You would have to put all of their names into your Zoom account under users, and then they would have to register. Each person would have to register in Zoom to this account as a user. And so, no, it would not work that way.
Thank
And
you.
that's why it's important why it would be good to have maybe a co-host or two that would see if there are names that they recognize. And for the most part, you should recognize most of the names. You can let them in, or you could have a list handy from the waiting room and then let them in through the waiting room. It's a good question. Under alternative hosts, I've not played with this at all, but I understand you can put somebody's email address in, and I think you also have to register them in the account, and then they can be an alternative host. And then you just save it, and when you save it,
Keeps those friends, huh?
it now is in my meetings. So if I go to my meetings,
And pending, right?
and there it is right here. Let's see, tomorrow, for
Coming in.
tomorrow. So what I can do with this now is if I click this, there is all the information for that meeting. At the bottom here where it says save as a meeting template, if that's a template that you want to use on a regular basis, and that all you need to do is maybe change the date, you could save as a meeting template. Give it a name,
Template.
and then save as a template.
Hmm.
You can have up to 40 templates. So you could name it whatever you want, this class or that, Paul Wax's class or Ann Ross's class, or whatever class, whatever there is. And then if you go back to the My Meetings and you look at, well, let's look at the meeting templates. If I had shown you this before, there wouldn't have been any here, but now there's one. And then you can say schedule meeting with this template, just click on that and then use that template and go in and change the date and maybe the time, and you're done. And make sure you save it as well. So that's what we were talking about yesterday, Paul. That's how you could do it. So each person holding a class can set up their meeting schedule as a template, and then all they have to do is click on it, and it'll have all the information that they want to have on a regular basis. So that's how that's handled. So we've gone through all the items in scheduling a meeting. Now there's some other things that I do want to show you. That's what I thought, well, that's going to be pretty much this whole class. And then I said, whoops, I forgot some things. So let me minimize this, and I'm going to bring up a couple of screen captures that I did. Sorry, I should have had this open for you. I can't share, it's not easy to share my screen and show you my screens. So I'm going to show you a couple of things that I captured this morning from if I had a meeting open. As the presenter, you get a little different menu at the bottom on a PC when you move your mouse down to the bottom. And this is what it looks like. And the biggest change and difference is the security button that's down here. And if I click that, what it shows me, and you'll see here, it has some of the things that deal with security. I can lock the meeting from here. I can disable the waiting room during a meeting, and then enable it again if I needed to. If somebody was having trouble, they didn't have, it just wasn't working right, I didn't want to be bothered, I could just shut that off. And then to allow participants to share screen, I could say, okay, I'm going to give you the ability to share your screen so Paul can share his screen with us. Or right now I have it unchecked, so you can't share your screen unless you're a co-host. The next would be chat. We have chat enabled by that check mark. If I wanted to shut off for whatever reason the ability for you to chat, I could just uncheck that. Same thing with renaming themselves and unmuting themselves. I could shut it off. I could mute you and then uncheck that, and then you wouldn't be able to unmute yourself. I'd have to do it for you. And sometimes you got to be careful. If that is unchecked and you don't realize it, you can't get anybody to talk unless you uncheck them. So this is a good place to go and then go in and check that and put a check mark next to it. The other thing that shows up on the screen as the presenter or the host are these two little buttons up here at the top, and they look like this.
Yep.
Zoomed in on. I believe you'll still see the eye. You don't see the security emblem, but I am not sure of that. But let's look at the eye first. And this is what it looks like. It shows I set up a test meeting. And so whatever the name of the meeting is will be here at the top. Then it will show what the meeting ID is, who the host is, what the password is, an invite link. So if you're I believe you get that circle I on yours if you move your mouse to the top. If you click on this, you can, or if you click here where it says copy link, you can copy it and then send out an invite without leaving and going to look for your email to send it to somebody else that forgot about the meeting or couldn't find theirs. And then there's a participant ID, and I think each participant gets a number. And then it also tells you what global network data center you're in, and we're in the United States. So Mike, that takes that pressure off you that you might be somewhere you don't want to be. The other thing that I did want to show you that you wouldn't see from my menu, because we're going to go back to that shield that's up in the corner, and I'm going to be able to share that with you. But over here where more is, as the person who's sharing the screen and the host, I can click on chat and look at the chat. I can record on this computer, record to the cloud. I can click on this for the meeting info. I can hide the video panel. I can hide floating meeting controls. I can go live on YouTube because I have it set up for that. If you also have it set up for live on Facebook, that would also be listed here. You can share the computer sound. If you forgot to click that little button when you shared your screen, you don't have to go out and come back in. All you have to do is go to more and then find where it says share computer sound, click it, and you'll be able to share your sound. And then the other is optimize share for full screen video clip. And what that does is that dummies down the bandwidth, but allows a video not to be choppy or not to be too far out of sync. But if somebody's trying to read your screen, it's going to be fuzzy and they may not be able to read it at all if it's smaller print. So we generally tell people don't optimize the share for full screen, because most of the time then your screen is not going to be viewable for your presentation. But because it's in this more and you're the presenter and you're sharing, you can click it on and then click it off when you're done with your video if you're having problems with your video. You won't have the problem. The visitors will see it choppy. You won't notice it on your end. Now this menu comes up when only when you move your mouse to the top and move it over, move it somewhere over where it says you are screen sharing. Otherwise, you don't see that menu. And you can also, from this menu, you can hit the participants and get your participant list. Let's see, you can pause the share. And of course, you can stop any video or mute your mic to cough or something. I use it quite a bit. And then when you're all done and you're done sharing and you want to go back to the gallery view or the speaker view, you click on the red stop share and it takes you out of the share mode. Okay, so those were some screen shares that I did want to share with you. Now, the next thing, since I am already there, what I want to do is, let's see how I do this. I think what I have to do is stop my share, click this, and then start sharing again. Let's see if that works. So I tried this morning, so bear with me 1 minute. And share screen. And share. You should see this menu, correct? You're all
Yes.
muted.
Yes.
Yes, we can
Yes.
see it.
Okay, good. All right. This is what I get when I hit the little shield that's next to the circle I in the top corner of my screen. It's actually a whole menu of all of the settings. But there's a lot more settings here than were in what we covered the last few days. And there's all different topics. First, under General, you can start Zoom when I start Windows. Well, I don't want to do that, but I could do that if I click that. When closed, minimize Windows to the notification area instead of the taskbar. The notification is down on the corner of your,
Right side instead
Yep.
of in the middle.
yeah, it's usually on this side. Whoops, there's nothing in there, so it's not showing up. If you have dual monitors, you can click that, and that'll give you a better use of your dual monitors. You can enter full screen automatically when starting or joining a meeting by default. You can automatically copy the invite link once the meeting starts. You can, this says ask me to confirm when I'm leaving a meeting, so I don't do it by mistake, like I have almost done a few times. Show my connected time, and then remind me 5 minutes before my upcoming meeting, and then stop the video and audio when my display is off or the screensaver begins. And then for people with the reactions, you can have a skin tone. So it varies by, you could have any one of these as your reaction when you're doing a thumbs up. Under video, of course, you're seeing my picture right now. You can see what camera I have set, and I do have a couple of choices there. If I had my my Minicam running, it would also be another choice for that. I could also have the either I'm at 6:9 or the original ratio if it happens to be different. You can enable HD or not. You can mirror the video, and what does that mean? Well, sometimes when you're looking at your own video, it's mirrored, but it isn't to other people. Sometimes that can be distracting, so you can switch it. You can switch back. I didn't move that fast. That was just the button. And you can touch up the appearance. So if you seem to be having a bad hair day or a bad makeup day, if you do it, it does smooth out some things. You'll see some of the wrinkles in my screen in the back disappear. And probably some on my face as well.
Works for me.
And the meetings always display participant names on their video. You may not want to do that. And if you could shut that off so their names don't show on the video. So if you're doing screen captures or you're making a video and people don't want their names up there, or you feel that they don't, you can shut that off. You can turn off my video when joining the meeting, which I have checked. Always show video preview dialog when joining a video meeting. And then some other choices: hide non-video participants. And some of you did that yesterday or in one of the meetings I was in, and they couldn't see the little blocks with just the names on it. If I click that and you don't have your video on, we don't see the block. And then spotlight my video when I speak. So that I probably should turn on. And so when I've got this on, you're going to see me instead of somebody else. No, I'm still seeing, there it is. Now it's switched. That, remember, I think yesterday when I had it, and even early this morning, it had one of you in that window instead of me. And by having that turned on, it'll always be whoever, it's going to be my video up there. And then display up to 49 participants. That's grayed out because I don't have a strong enough video card or CPU to handle that. So I can only get 25 people in the gallery view on my screen. Did not see any video, then you can click on troubleshooting. Audio, this
Huey,
is, yeah,
on that video, that spotlight, that puts a yellow border around your box when you speak. That's not the same as presenter view, where it highlights just you and blocks out the rest of them.
okay, but it
Where
does,
is this?
but you will notice now that it defaults to me when I'm talking now, where it didn't before, up here in the little corner. And I can make it this, and I can make it this, but I prefer it, let's see, I prefer it, there's 1 block, 2 blocks, and then the gallery view.
The spotlight puts a yellow, just as you see on my screen now, puts a yellow border around me to
Okay,
indicate
yeah.
I'm the one
Yeah.
speaking.
Yeah, I see that.
Okay, under
I have
audio,
another question. just
Sure.
Real quick. First, how do you get to settings?
these settings are in various places, but on mine, if you remember in the PowerPoint, it was up next to the I, and I'm not sure whether it shows up on yours or not.
It does.
When we're not in screen share mode, and I don't believe it does. So this is more as the from the host or the speaker's point of view.
True.
Okay, from our point of view, up next to the little red dot where it says you're recording, you do have those 2 icons, but your client connection, is shown there.
Okay.
Huey,
Yes.
okay, you can get, if you have the Zoom client on your computer and you start the Zoom client, settings is a settings on that. And that's why I always start the Zoom settings, because I can go in and make sure my virtual background is what I want and my audio and video testing is what I want. And I don't have to get into the meeting to determine I got a problem or I don't have the right mic.
Right. And you're saying the Zoom client, you mean the Zoom app. And for whatever reason, I can't make it work on my computer. When I click the Zoom button, and I've got a couple of pictures to show that, and what we mean by that, what he means is when you have, I'll bring it up. Come on. There it is. Right now, let's see. I can't make it.
No, you got it right there.
Yeah, but it's behind the other, and I can't bring it forward. So I'll show it when we're done with that. I'll minimize it right now.
Well, that's
And I'll-
because you got the settings menu up.
Right. I don't want to make it go away because then I have to get out to bring it back in. So,
Yeah.
all right. So let's continue with this. You can test your speaker to make sure others hear you, and you can change the volume of that. And that's what your volume, what the output volume is. But on the microphone, you can also turn the volume up. If somebody says, we can barely hear you, if you go into this setting and move your microphone up, it actually will make it louder for all of your visitors. And then you can automatically adjust the volume as well. And then as you speak, you get the input level. And then use a separate audio device to play ringtones simultaneously. I don't have that on. Automatically join audio by computer when joining a meeting. And mute my microphone when joining a meeting. I don't have that checked. Press and hold space key to temporarily unmute yourself. That's good to have on, and then tell your visitors if you're muted and you want to unmute yourself, instead of finding where it's unmute and then mute again, just hold your space key down when you want to talk, and then let it up when you want to be silent again. And then sync buttons on headset, and I'm not sure what that does. And then there's an advanced, and I'm not going to go into that. Share your screen, enter full screen when participant screen shares screen. Maximize Zoom window when a participant shares a screen. I don't have that on. Scale to fit shared content to a Zoom window. Enable the remote control of all applications, and I have that unchecked. Side-by-side mode is on, so that's why you see something over here. If I turn that off, I'm not sure if that goes away or not. It may have to be restarted, I'm not sure. And then silence system notifications when sharing desktop. That's supposed to work, but it doesn't always. The virtual background, you're familiar with how to get to that through your button at the bottom next to video recording. This is how you can set up about the recording. The local recording, it goes to me, on my computer, it goes in the D drive and then to a Zoom folder. So you can change where it's going to save it. And then you can choose a location when the meeting ends. So it'll ask you where to put it. I don't have that checked, so it always puts it here. And then creates a folder for that day and that meeting. Record a separate audio file for each participant who speaks. Wow. Don't have that turned on. Optimize for third-party video editor. And add a timestamp for the recording. We talked about this yesterday. Not a good idea because it blocks things, but there may be times that, I don't want to use the word time. There may be some occasions where you want the time to be on the recording. Record video during screen sharing. And so you could turn it off. So when I shared my screen, it wouldn't record that. But when I'm off, it would be still recording. And then place video next to the shared screen in the recording. And keep temporary recording files. Okay, statistics, it gives you some statistics that you can look at, and one of the things you want to look at is the version. Some feedback, this is where you can put the feedback. There are a lot of keyboard shortcuts, and you can look them up, and you can enable a global shortcut. What that means is, and I looked at it by clicking here, it means that global shortcuts are keyboard shortcuts that can be used even when Zoom app is not in focus. So if you're in something else and you use this keystroke, it'll still do the same thing. None of those are checked. And then under accessibility, you can change the closed caption, but that's not the closed caption that YouTube generates. This is if you have a third-party service or you yourself put in the closed captioning within Zoom. And then always show meeting controls. That means at the bottom of the screen, when you move your mouse down and that control bar pops up, you can make it so it always is there. It doesn't just pop up. That's probably not a bad idea in some cases, but other times it's going to especially if you're doing Windows things where the taskbar is at the bottom, they might not see the taskbar because of the controls. And then you can make the chat display size smaller or bigger from here as well. So I did want to go through all of those settings. The other thing that, oh, come on, I don't need to know that right here. But what I was showing you, let's see, and I did have it open, and let's see if I'm opening again. This is the app for Zoom. I can't make it work on my Windows machine, but this would be another way in which you could get to the settings, and I believe there's another button that'll show settings if you're the host.
Yep. Up here.
Does it say settings on yours? This was a screen capture I got from the.
It's at the upper.
Not on this one, but when I log
right.
in, I get that. I get the settings. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, you can go up here. There it is. Yeah.
No, upper right. There you go.
Yep.
There it is.
This is not a live. I can't duplicate this. I can't make this happen on this computer for whatever reason. What happens is it ends up looking like, let's close this, and I think the other one is right behind. No matter what I clicked for Zoom, this is what I get.
You got to sign in first.
And then it will give me that?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I just learned something. See? All right. Thank you. I'll try that later.
That's how you get into your Zoom application. You have to sign into the application, which is unique to you.
All right, great. Well, I just learned something. Thank you so much.
I use it because it said I've got 3 or 4 Zoom apps, and I can click into this, and if you got everything set up, you can click and start on here without having to go to the web.
Okay, we covered a lot.
Yeah.
And that whole screen of all those settings and so on, I hadn't seen that before. I pushed the button and I said, oh, I got to cover all of this. So, yes.
The settings that you showed for scheduling a meeting, if you go into it from the icon on the system tray, it isn't the same. I learned a whole lot when you showed it on the Zoom account side.
Yeah, the portal.
Yeah, because it's not available in your settings when you're setting it up to schedule a meeting through that app on your computer.
Okay, that's good to know. And also, there are some settings where you can actually go into a Google Calendar and have it attached to your Zoom can be attached to your Google Calendar. And from the Google Calendar, click and set up a meeting through it, as well as I believe there's an add-on for Outlook that you can do it from Outlook.
Yeah, that's real neat when you want the people to confirm or accept or deny the meeting, and you got the Zoom meeting. That is real good for that.
Well, when you create your meeting, you can also include the links for them to click on, and it will automatically put it in their Google Calendar or their Outlook calendar as well. And I do
Correct.
that quite often. So there's a lot of things you can do with this program, and there's a lot to learn. But once you get it set up, unless you are doing different types of meetings all the time, it's fairly you've got it set up. You just keep using it, and you make some individual changes for each meeting, but after a while it becomes routine, like any software, I guess. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and thank you. I'm going to just stop the recording, and then, but I do want to say at the end of the recording, thanks for everybody who was watching the recording of this. We hope you've learned something from all of the discussions from the 3 parts. This is part 3 of the settings for Zoom in May of 2020, because it may be changed by next week, who knows. But thank you for joining. I'm Huey Poplock. This is the rest of our audience, and if you're watching us in the recording, please make sure you gives us a thumbs up. Go ahead and subscribe, and also any comments you want to make, please put them down. And I will